Okay. So do you want to start the episodes? I think you started the last episode. That was great. Should we start by you saying hello and welcome to the other episode?
Well, do you think it's fair that I always start?
No, I can start if you want to.
I don't care either way.
Let's do it like this. Okay, I can start.
This is in the episode, by the way.
And then I'll ask you. This is how it all starts.
This is how it all starts.
How do you want to do it? Do you want to go first?
Do you want to go? No, do you?
No, but you can go first.
Do you want to? I mean, do you want to go?
I can do it if you want.
I mean, I can go, but do you want to go? I mean, I can go, but do you want to go?
I'll go.
Okay, you go.
I'll go.
Okay.
I'll go home because I'm fucking tired of this shit.
So after all that, who does begin? Do you want?
I can start.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of our podcast at Random Rad Games. I am Seb, and who am I with?
I don't know. Who are you? Oh, you mean me?
I think so.
I'm Raz.
I might be talking to the person behind that door, probably listening to us right now.
That would be really creepy because the door is right behind me, and I don't know if anybody's actually there. You could literally be looking behind me like, who's that? And I'd be like freaked out.
I will sometimes during this podcast just start looking at the door, looking terrified.
Yeah.
Just going,
oh my god.
oh my goodness.
I like how you're more controlled, more polite. You don't say, oh my god, you go, my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
My gosh.
Like an axe murderer just entered this room and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Like, oh my goodness, it's a fucking murderer.
It's a fudging murderer.
It's a fudging, right.
Fudging, right.
Anyway.
So tell me about yourself.
Is that a pickup line?
Yeah.
You're trying to hit on me?
I'm trying to get into your pants.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Don't you get that? That's why I'm here.
Of course. No, but last episode, we've concluded that we started out the episode really weird.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was you were saying, like, oh, I asked you, like, and who are you? And you were like, I'm Seb, and I'm Seb. It's like, you provided no actual information.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that I'm Seb.
Yeah. And I think that message came through.
Yeah.
I think so.
I'm not so sure though. So
yeah.
I'll tell it again.
Okay.
I'm Seb.
Okay. Now it's an ASMR.
But you can
podcast.
call me Sebastian.
Now it's an ASMR podcast. No, but
our podcast is now out on SMR.
Oh yeah, we could totally mention that on the podcast. Our podcast is now everywhere. Almost that. No, actually, it is everywhere. Fucking
everywhere.
Yeah, I think there's two services that I haven't.
RedTube.
Well, I'll make sure to add it later today.
Oh, I forgot about those.
What's RedTube?
Well, it's
we shouldn't advertise for the younger audience, so let's not go any further.
Do not search on RedTube on Google.
Yeah, don't.
But adults, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway. What
are we doing?
No, we were listening to the previous podcast and we noticed we didn't really provide much of an introduction.
No,
it was we were just like, hi, I'm me, and he's you, and you're you, and I'm them, and let's keep going.
Yeah.
And I thought we ought to correct that by at least mentioning a little bit about who we are, so that the listeners know.
Yeah. And
what
that's
the fuck
why
is
I
all
asked
this
you,
about. Yeah.
Who are you? Tell me about yourself. And you
is that why you...
Yes.
I thought you just meant I was supposed to say my name or something.
No, I tried to do this very smoothly and natural, and you just ruined everything.
You're not very smooth, though.
I'm trying.
Okay, well, I'm Raz, And so what we did mention last time is that we were like just two guys who met, became friends, and realized that we have a knack for babbling on and on and on and on about video games.
And on and on.
And on and on.
And on.
We talk a lot.
Yeah.
And we realized that with such a talent, it would be very productive for us to make like a podcast, with the simplest of all ventures on the internet.
Yes.
We tried YouTube. That didn't go so well.
Well, we've actually made our first thing on YouTube.
It's funny because we didn't work. Doing YouTube didn't work out, but as soon as we started a podcast, then YouTube worked out. It was really funny.
Yeah. I guess this gave us the motivation to actually do something more.
Yeah.
And I've had a great time with it.
Yeah, I think for me especially, like when I dive deep into something I'm doing, I go 200%. I'm like balls deep.
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
You've done it a lot.
So,
and I'm really proud of you, my son.
Oh, Daddy?
Daddy? Is that you?
No, but like, so since we started the podcast, when we started the podcast, actually we're saying, okay, bare minimum. We're not doing anything. We'll just record us talking. That's it. Now we're on like 15 podcast services.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
12. Maybe it's 12.
Maybe 9 or 12.
Close to 50. I think it's 12. Since I added new ones since we last time we talked.
You've added even more.
And also we're on all the social media almost. Not the personal ones, not like Snapchat or anything like that. But we do.
Well,
we
the
are
more popular one like Tumblr and
we're
Instagram
on Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube,
Facebook.
I already said that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay, I forgive you. What are we talking about? Okay, let me just look it up on the website. Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, and YouTube. It was Discord, I forgot.
Oh, yeah. And we've actually made some friends, or we've made some friends that was your friends from the beginning.
Yeah, my friends from my Twitch days.
Yes.
We got Crazy Kane, who was the first person to comment on our previous podcast by saying that it should be all about farts. Which I totally agree. We should do a total fart podcast.
We took that to heart.
Yes, we've learned from your comments.
Yes, wise words.
Wise words, indeed.
So we tried to introduce this whole episode by talking more about us.
Yeah.
But we still haven't said anything about it.
That's true. We've been babbling. So, like I said, I'm Raz, and we are. Okay, me personally, yes. I work as a front-end developer. I'm a programmer and a consultant. And before doing this, I've had tons of different projects all over the internet. Everything from just building fan sites to building. I had a YouTube channel with like 200 videos, Let's Plays mostly. Some sketches and stuff like that. I've done Twitch on 2 separate accounts. The latest one, which is sometimes still used, I still sometimes stream on Twitch with Handy Gamer Show. And did I do anything? Oh, and also I'm an editor, so I edit all our videos and audio and anything else that needs editing of any sort. And yeah, I'm a lifelong gamer, played since I was a little kid, played the NES, skipped the SNES because we couldn't afford it, it was too expensive. Same thing with the Nintendo 64. Played a bit of PlayStation 1 and then really kicked in with PC games back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, mostly PC games. Then jumped into like Xbox and... eventually I was avoiding PlayStation for a really long time because the controller was terribly uncomfortable, and that's I guess I should say that also I'm handicapped, hence my username Handy Gamer.
And you may have noticed from our video as well.
Well,
if
they've seen it, yeah. So that's me and us, but who are you?
Yeah, I will not say my name again. I'm Seb.
I'm sorry, did you say your name was Seb?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Maybe you should repeat it one more time.
No. They
Too
get
much.
it. Again.
Too much.
I'm Seb. Okay, so besides doing this podcast and all other things we've been doing, like our sketches on YouTube, I am studying to become a dietitian. And
very game related.
Yeah, very, very game related.
It's a diet of video games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to stay on point when you game, right?
Yeah,
you need all those
need
carbs for your brain and all those fibers for your farts.
Need to keep your thumbs flexible. If you have thumbs, you know, I don't. Maybe you do.
And besides that, I'm actually a drummer. So the songs that you've heard during the introduction of our episodes and also some middle segments. Yeah, the transitions.
And the ending.
And the ending is actually made by me, those 8-bit songs. But those songs are actually based on songs that I wrote with my band. I'm no longer in that band, but the 8-bit songs are totally just made by me. And I'm a drummer. I was a drummer in that band, but I'm still a drummer, but in another band right now. But we haven't really got any material or anything, so you can't...
It's new, you only recently joined.
We are very recent.
Yeah.
But the other band I was in is called Exit, and the album we actually released a whole album. It's called Revolution, if you're interested.
It's on Spotify.
Yeah, it's on Spotify. Yeah. But hopefully in a year or two, we'll be releasing new songs with my new band.
Does the new band have a name?
Yeah, we think we're settling down on Overlord, and we're playing like thrash metal.
Coincidentally, there's a video game called Overlord.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's about all.
Yeah,
I do.
That's us.
Yeah, and like Raz, you talked a lot about video games and how you grew up with it, and my biggest memories lies in the Nintendo 64. That's when I really got into gaming. But I got obsessed with the gaming when I started playing World of Warcraft.
What was your first game?
I'm not sure which my first game was, but it might have been either Dr. Mario or I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Dark Shadow on the SNES with Donald Duck, Mouillé Mallard or something.
Okay, but so what's the topic for this episode?
So the topic for this episode is I can't remember. Why don't you tell us? I told them the last time.
The topic is I don't remember. Don't you remember that? Okay. No, it's the topic for this episode is backlogs and prioritizing games, and also like mental stress from like the knowing that you have a huge backlog and being stressed about trying to finish as much as you can, and if you can't, you sort of feel down or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's been a huge problem for me in the past, which is an interesting topic in itself. But it's a major topic for you.
Yes.
Which this whole topic idea was your idea.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So the reason why I picked this subject is probably because this is a problem for both of us, but we are, or a problem, it's a fact that we're both collectors and we have a lot of games.
Yeah.
And some of you might recognize this by just having a huge Steam library.
Yeah.
Just all
That's
these
how
games
it starts.
Yeah.
Those are the first symptoms.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I have so many Steam games.
Yeah. And they're just sitting there, just waiting for you to play them. And which game should you prioritize? Which game should you play? Which game should you not play? How long should you play a game before you give up and start playing another?
There's another layer to that, in that you said the phrase, which game should you not play? Which implies that you have games that you purchased for real money that you have no intention of playing. Which is a whole nother layer to your mental stress, because you realize, holy shit, I paid for this, but I have no intention of actually playing it.
That's kind of true, because we talked about this right before the podcast. we went out to buy and bought a lot of games, a lot of 360 and PS3 games, and a lot of those games. It's not that they seemed like bad games or anything, but me personally is not really interested in them. But I still bought them because they were cheap, and they were, they received average reviews, and I bought them. But in the end, I'm like, but I have all these classics. I have so many games that I still haven't played. Why should I prioritize these average games before these classics? And but I also want to find games that not many people have already played. Maybe to find hidden gems or stuff like that.
I'm thinking we should emphasize that we are like when we're talking about this, it's because you and I are game collectors.
Yeah.
And hopefully maybe there's other people who are listening to this who are game collectors and they identify this problem, because there are people who, obviously lots of people who don't collect video games but do play them.
Yeah.
And for those people, maybe they have one or two games that they don't end up playing even though they bought them, but they don't have quite as big of a back catalog as you and I do. Or other collectors, I should say.
No.
So it's a big problem for people like you and me and other collectors, but it's not for the whole general public.
No.
Yeah.
Or it might be a problem for you, even if you're not a collector, because some of today's games take a lot of time to finish. And if you've bought a game for a a huge stack of money, you usually want to try that game out. But if you don't have the time, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But so, if we head to the first topic,
how to deal with mental stress caused by the notion that you have this huge back catalog.
Exactly.
Do you have any methods for like dealing with it?
I've thought about this a lot because I have a lot of, I definitely have mental stress when it comes to my backlog, definitely, because every time I walk into my the room where I keep all my games, I feel satisfied that I have a lot and I'm proud of my collection. But at the same time, I usually think I want to get rid of some of my games just to keep it down a bit, so that I'm just not so overwhelmed every time.
I don't have that feeling.
No, apparently not.
No, I just keep hoarding.
Yeah. But what I've been trying to do is to keep it at one game at a time. That's my strategy, and I've been trying to stay with that for quite a while now. But it's hard because, for example, when a new game releases, I usually, if I really want to play that game, I will prioritize that game. I will play that game first and then play other games. So I'll prioritize modern games. I'll prioritize new releases. Usually because I want to talk about those games with friends, like with you or other friends, about those new releases. Because I can talk with you a lot about retro games, but the chance of us both having played it is not always that big, and we can't talk about the game if both of us haven't played it. Yeah. But so if there's no game out, no new releases that I really want to play, I've been thinking about making this strategy to take one console at a time. So for example, I'll choose a Nintendo 64 game, or I'll choose the system Nintendo 64, and then I'll go through my games, and then I pick one game, and when I'm finished with that game, or I'm bored of it, but that's also a part of this topic. When are you bored? I mean, it's kind of obvious when you're bored of a game, but when should you give up, or when should you just stop playing it when it doesn't bring you much engagement anymore?
But like, in terms of dealing with the stress, do you take a hot bath? Do you like?
Oh, you mean like that?
Do you like Do you actually process the stress in any way to sort of like you can disconnect from a lot of things in life just mentally, like if you're depressed or whatever. Mental stress over a video game library is perhaps a little bit different. I don't think there's any scientific studies regarding it exactly. You know what I mean?
You can probably connect it to a lot of very studied subjects.
But I'm like, do you like do you get a massage? Do you go for a walk? You know, like does anything help you to sort of disconnect from gaming?
Well, when it comes to gaming, no, I don't go for a walk if I feel overwhelmed by my library or anything. But what I do is that I try to focus on one specific game or one system. So if I'm playing a game right now and I'm still enjoying that game, I will focus on that game. I won't start playing another game. That's the game that I'm playing, and when I'm done or bored or whatever of that game, I'll move on to the next game. And I'll usually try to go back and forth between new games and or retro games and the new games, unless for the exception if there's a new release that I really want to play, I'll play that game first always. But for example, right now I've played a lot of Ocarina of Time, but I have never finished it. I've never beaten it by myself, and I'm doing that right now. So I'm trying to, clean up my backlog a bit.
So for me, it was. I know this is gonna sound cheesy, but okay. When I was actually your age, when I was like...
I was your age.
In my days, in the olden days. When I was about your age, which was like 5 years ago or something like that, and younger, I had much more... I worried a lot more. I was more on the edge all the time. Somewhere around when I turned 30, which wasn't that long ago, like 2 years ago, things started to change. And what I've noticed has happened with me, not just in relation to video games, to a lot of things, to work, to, lots of things around my life, is that I don't give a shit anymore. I do care. I haven't gotten to the point where I don't care. I think that happens when you turn 40 or something. But I care.
You stop caring. 40, you give up on life.
Yeah, that's more or less
50,
true.
You're dead.
Yeah, that's more or less true.
Inside.
But I care less now than I did before. So even though I still feel mental stress about my backlog, it doesn't bother me quite as much. I feel like, okay, this is bothering me, but I have a much easier time just disconnecting. Just going like that on a flip of a switch. I'm like, you know what? I'll go watch Netflix for a little while. I don't need to finish a game this month, this week, today. It's fine. I still feel that little bit of, in the back of your head that's like gnawing at your brains, like you need to finish this game. You need to finish this game.
Don't forget about this game and that game. And all these games.
And depending on the severity of the problem, it can be... Because you remember Castlevania Lords of Shadow? Yeah. There's that final boss. Oh, yeah. That was haunting me for like 7 years, I think. 7 years. Okay, I should explain for the listeners. Yeah. I played Castlevania Lords of Shadow on the Xbox 360 back when it came out. I think it was 2010? I think it was 2010. And I really liked that game. And the first DLC came out, and I played it on the hardest difficulty, completed it, I was like, cool, done. Then the second DLC came out, played it on the hardest difficulty, went all the way to the end, and then I hit a brick wall, because it has the hardest boss battle I had at that point ever played. There's been harder since then, but that one was the hardest at that time. And what happened was, as most boss battles these days, it has like checkpoints. So you finish a third of the boss's health, and then it's a checkpoint save, maybe a little cutscene, and then you continue fighting. And another third, another checkpoint, cutscene, keep fighting. That's where I stopped. On the second of 3 checkpoints, my health is literally just 1 point, meaning a gust of wind will kill me. That's how frail my character is. I have none of the magic points, so I can't use any of my magic abilities. I have just bare bones whips.
Was there magic abilities in that game?
Yes.
Okay, so I play that by having no idea that
Well, you wouldn't be able to use it anyway.
Exactly.
But yeah, there was no magic points. You can use magic points to restore health, by the way, just so you know.
Okay.
And also because throughout the 3 stages, the boss gets more and more powerful. So at the 3rd stage, he's as powerful as he's possibly gonna get. He's like twice as fast. He moves really fast across the screen. His attacks doesn't really matter because I only have 1 health point anyway, so he could just like blow at me and I'll be dead. I kept replaying that checkpoint for I think 3 or 4 hours, and then I rage quit. But I didn't come back to it.
Beautiful protection.
7 years later, 7 years later, you come over to my place to hang out for a little bit. And we pick up that game, and you try to pick up right at that checkpoint.
I had never played that game before.
You never played it, and you had to play for like an hour or something like that.
Yeah, about an hour.
About an hour, and you managed to beat him finally. And I don't think I got the platinum achievement only because there was one other thing I needed to do somewhere, and that's in that DLC.
Yes.
But other than that, the game is completed.
Yeah.
And I went back after you, and I played it again as well. And I managed to beat him, but only after like almost 2 hours. He's hard. He's fucking hard.
It was pretty hard.
He was balls to the wall hard.
But if I'd had some magic at my disposal, maybe it wouldn't have been
But
as hard
that
as
game
when I met him.
haunted me for 7 years. In the back of my head, it's like, you have to beat that boss. You have to beat that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now that I don't have that anymore, and I turned 30, I just don't give a shit anymore. So I'm like, okay, so you're 27, right?
Yeah.
You have 3 years left of that stress. Then you can totally relax.
I look forward to when I'm hitting 30. Jeez.
It'll gradually annoy you less.
Yeah.
I think it's that partially because there's other priorities in life, and also me as a person, I'm easily distracted. When things come up, I'm like, oh, I have to focus on this now, and then I focus on that thing like 120%, and I forget everything else. Very often it's like it's been a month, and I've been like busy with something hard, and then I wake up from that focus, from that thing that it's over. If it's a game, I finished it. If it's a project, I finished it or whatever. And I wake up and I look around. It's like, holy shit, I haven't vacuumed in almost a month. The dishes. Oh my God, when did this mountain of dishes appear? You know, I haven't cleaned my place in years. Oh my God, I need a haircut. My hair is like really long. My beard, you know. And I realize, oh shit, my focus has been too much on this other thing.
Yeah.
So that helps with the mental stress of games, because during that really high focus, you don't think about your backlog. You don't think about your games and the games you haven't finished and stuff like that. And after a month, even when you remember it, it's like, oh, well, it's been a month. You know, you don't think about it as much anymore. So,
well, it's not so much about I guess it is. I get what you're saying, but it's probably something that's differentiates. It's very different between different people.
Yeah.
Because I haven't felt like this. I don't always feel stressed out about it. And like I said before, if I'm focused on a game and I'm playing that game and I know which game that I'm supposed to play, then I'm not that stressed out about it. Like, for example, now I'm playing Ocarina of Time. I'm just trying to focus on that game. But as soon as I'm finished with that game, or as soon as I start to realize that I don't want to play that game anymore, and I'm going to pick up a new game, that's when the problem occurs to me. Because there's so many consoles that I just haven't been playing with enough. I feel like I don't know much about the Dreamcast. I just got the Dreamcast, but
and the Xbox.
Yeah, and the Xbox. I actually only have one game for that Xbox, and the only reason why I bought the game was to try the Xbox out.
And the hot chick on the cover.
Shh.
I know your game. You're not fooling me. But basically, everyone deals with stress in different ways. I suppose there probably are people who deal with mental stress from games by taking a bath or going for a walk.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's totally a thing. I think it would probably help me as well if I actually bothered to go outside at any point. I live like a hermit. I always indoors.
But I always find myself thinking about those things.
Yeah.
Because that's something you hear a lot about. Yeah. If you feel stressed out, if you need to take a break, just go for a walk, take a hot bath. I never do that.
Yeah.
I usually just sit down, stare into a wall, getting more and more frustrated, and then I'll start to hit myself in the leg or something.
But could that be a sign?
The stress just builds up.
But could that be a sign that
I'm not
the
mentally
stress
stable?
No, well that too. But that the stress is building.
Yes.
That it's every time you're not giving it a chance to vent. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Or I ventilate it by getting frustrated, and I get ventilated by getting angry.
Well, there's probably healthier ways to deal with
Definitely.
it, you know?
Definitely.
Instead of punching yourself. Okay, but so I don't need to deal with it as much as I did before. When I was younger and this stress, and I had other problems before. I had depression and all that sort of stuff before. The way I dealt with it was, to be honest, some of the most relaxing things I could think of back in the day was to not play a game and instead talk to a friend. I didn't have many friends though, so what talking to a friend actually meant was going on social websites or chatting.
They are
chat
all my
services.
friends.
They're all my friends. I know this friend for 10 years. We've never met, but we know each other. But yeah, it would be like go in on some forum, gaming forum or something, talk to people, talk to friends. I used to hang out on this, now it's terrible, but when it was fresh and new, it was pretty fun. Chat service called IMVU. It's horrible.
Oh, yeah.
It's horrible now. But back in the day, it was okay-ish. And I would end up like just going in just to talk to some rando, just to relax a little bit. It was very liberating, and you sort of forget about the games for a little bit and recover. And I think that's my bath. That's my massage. But yeah, there's, like I said, I'm sure there's people who take walks just to recover a little bit.
And also, because the big difference between like playing a game and watching a movie or a series or something is that you have to put a lot of effort, usually depending on the game, of course. But it just takes so much more effort to start a game and to play it instead of just watching a movie or watching Netflix. And I guess that many might do that as well, instead of, if they feel stressed out or if they don't feel like putting too much effort into but they want to do something, a video or a movie or something is probably better than playing a game. But what happens to me when I sometimes watch a movie instead of playing games, I might end up thinking about what I should do instead of watching the movie. Like thinking, I should probably spend this free time by playing more games instead of watching movies.
See, that's I recognize that.
Yeah.
I had the same problem because I prioritized playing games. Now it's
even
a little bit different.
Even though you maybe didn't feel like it.
Yeah.
But you
now it's
felt
a little
like
bit
you should play.
Yeah, and that's where much of the mental stress came from.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit different because now I don't prioritize playing games. Or I do, but not nowhere near as much as I used to. So now it's more like I prioritize other things and I end up doing them. And because I'm doing those other things that I prioritize, I don't feel as bad about the backlog. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like I said, the focus goes somewhere else because I wanted my focus to go to that other place. Like in our podcast case, I was working on our website and I was totally into that website and I felt good doing it. and while I was feeling good doing it, I wasn't feeling bad about my backlog, because my focus wasn't on the backlog. It was on doing good at this thing that I'm doing right now, which was a website. Yeah. So that has changed a little bit for me.
So it's about the focus. It's kind of like I said before as well. If I know which game that I'm going to play, then I won't think too much about it.
Yeah,
I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what I want to do, and that just helps.
Yeah. So assuming that we are at the stage where we have dealt with our mental stress, what methods do we use to prioritize our gaming so that we feel more efficient?
Yeah, I think I started to talk about this even before, and it's pretty much how I handle mental stress as well. I try to focus on one console at a time. And how
console or game?
Usually console.
Okay.
It's not like I'm trying to, I want to complete every Zelda game or anything like that. I usually focus, okay, so now I'm playing PS3. Or I should pick a PS3 game right now. Or I should pick a Dreamcast game right now. If there's no new game releases out and I'm about to choose a game, I'll choose a console first, usually a console that I haven't played too much. And usually it goes between modern and retro. So maybe I'll pick a PS4 game this time, and then the next time I'll pick a retro game like an SNES or NES game. And then when I'm finished or bored with that game, I'll go back to playing a modern game. And then I just go back and forth and try to play only one game. I have some games that I own which can be played beside that game. It's not a game which you have to engage into a story or something. It's usually a rhythm game or something. So if I want to play a game, but I'm not feeling like heading into a very deep story or playing like a big open world game, I can just kick back and play some rhythm games instead. Or maybe if I only have an hour to spare, it's a much more better experience to just sit down and play something fast instead of having to start up a game, play for a little bit, and then starting to get into the game and the story, and then you just have to turn it off.
For me, it's like, well, partially the thing where I don't care as much extends to methods, because I used to think a lot about methods in terms of like, oh, which method should I take for my backlog tackling. In the world of development, in programming and project handling and stuff like that, there's something called agile development. And within that, there's like something called Scrum or Kanban, which I think you saw on one of the sites that we were talking about earlier. We'll talk about that more later. And you could try employing something like that on like backlog handling, but I've come to realize that none of it will really, really work.
No.
Because at the end of the day, if it's not a game that I feel like I'm really into as much, the fact that some service recommended it does not help.
No.
It should. So what I've come to realize at this point in my life is that there shouldn't really be anything that tells me what I should be playing. It should be what I feel like. So instead of going like, oh, we have all these games, which one is the most efficient? Instead of going the robotic way and saying, oh, which one is more efficient to play? I instead go, which one is the most fun that I can have in the shortest amount of time? Because the amount of time is a big factor. And we wrote down that we should talk about How Long to Beat, the greatest website in the history of websites. So if you've never been, there's a website called howlongtobeat.com. It's not .com, right?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's .com.
Yeah, I think it's
.com. Or just Google How Long to Beat. It's the first thing that pops up. So basically, it's a game registry that has, I think, all games ever. I've never searched.
Every game that I've searched.
Yeah, I've searched for really obscure titles, and they still pop up on that service. It's really impressive. And all of them have, well, I shouldn't say all. There's probably some obscure titles that don't have any, but most of the games have statistic tracking from other people who have played that game that informs you how long, on average, it takes for them to complete that game. Whether it be to just beat the game, or complete it entirely, or just finish the storyline, or whatever. And it just sort of like tells you, okay, on average, just to beat the game, not doing the extras or anything like that, it takes you this much on average. And you can, based on that, sort of estimate how long it will take, how much of your time it will take. And that's useful if you're trying to, like, if you only have like, I only have this weekend, you know, and I have a huge backlog of games to play. I probably shouldn't pick Skyrim this weekend. You know what I mean? Because you can't finish it in a weekend anyway.
No. I actually really like that also when it comes to RPGs.
Yeah.
Because like what you were saying, if there is a game coming out in the next 2 weeks or something, maybe you don't want to start a game like Skyrim, and but maybe you want to play an RPG, but usually when you start an RPG, you expect usually you expect about 50-60 hours before that game ends, but it varies a lot. Some RPGs are barely 15 hours.
Yeah.
And just to look it up on how long to beat, it's excellent.
Yeah. Actually, this transitions very well into our next topic, which is old versus new games, because old games were very short.
Yeah.
You pick up, like, I don't know, Castlevania or whatever from back in the day on the NES or something. You could finish many of them in like an hour or something, you know?
Even like half an hour.
Even half an hour, if you know what you're doing,
Yeah,
you can
if you know
finish
what
a
you're
game
doing.
in like half an hour.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, 2019, a game comes out, even if it's a bad game, poorly designed or something, it's because of like a sandbox design or something, it takes dozens of hours, a week, a month to complete, or it doesn't have an end and they expect you to play it forever and pay microtransactions and stuff over time.
Yeah.
And it's a total mindfuck, because now it's even harder to pick a game to play.
It's very hard. It's like you have to dedicate yourself to a game.
And that sucks.
Yeah, it does. I mean, since
I don't
there's
want
so
to dedicate
many-
myself.
No,
the only thing
no.
I want to dedicate myself to is like my girlfriend, my family, my home. Anything else, I'll play it for the amount of time that I have designated for it.
Yeah.
Whether it be a weekend, a couple of hours, at most maybe a week or two, but that's it. I'm not dedicated to it, as in I don't want to, spend the rest of my life with it or anything like that. I have a life to take care of, you know.
Yeah.
But in regards to old versus new games, it becomes easier, at least for me, to pick some older games to play.
Yeah.
Because then I know, okay, this would probably be shorter than if I took, something newer that's like massive.
Yeah, I would never, like I said before, I played a lot of World of Warcraft before, and that's pretty much endless. That could be the only game you play.
Yeah.
And I'm really trying to stay away from those types of games, so I never tried these, the Elder Scrolls Online game or Star Wars Online game or anything. I actually tried Terra for a bit. But now I've decided not to get involved in any of those games. I usually like them. I think they're fine. But what I want right now out of my gaming life, it's like great stories. Because I can still put a lot of hours. For example, I played Persona 5 just recently. And that took me about 120 hours. But I knew, because of how long to beat, and also because of all... You hear a lot about how long that game was on the internet, like everywhere. So I knew what I was getting myself into, and I guess you could say that I dedicated myself to that game, because that's how I play games nowadays, I think, because I don't want to have like tons of unfinished games.
Yeah.
So the only time when I stop playing a game is when I don't want to play that game anymore. But if I still find the game fun, I'll play it through. Usually.
Well, but in regards to like picking in time-consuming games, for me, it's a lot of times it's easier just to go to like my retro corner and pick out a game, because even if it's a game that's longer, the way many of the older games were designed was stage-based, level-based, and a lot of times the stages didn't have any plot or story. So, which basically means you can play a bunch of stages and you haven't actually gone through any sort of like story, or you don't feel like you've actually progressed. Well, okay, fine. There's like these stages that you could say that I need to finish those, but there's no narrative to connect it all. Like, for example, I recently on stream tried to play an Xbox game called Blinks the Time Sweeper, which is a level-based game, or stages. It has chapters, and then each chapter has like 4 or 5 stages within it, and then another chapter, and then another chapter. But at the very beginning of the game, there's a plot that's explained to you. Oh, there's these time crystals, and you have to collect blah, 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 and so on and so forth. But then when you're actually playing the game and you go into the first stage, nobody talks, there's no cutscenes, there's nothing. Just complete your mission, do it as fast as you can, because there's a timer, and the faster you finish the game, the better score you get, and it was score-based. And your focus goes from, oh, I need to finish the campaign to see what happens with the story, to, oh, I just have to get a better time on this mission. Which for me, I do not care about that. So for me, it was easy to say, oh, well, I'll play a little bit of Blinks the Time Sweeper now, and if I don't finish the rest, who cares? Because I don't really care about the score, I care about playing the game. And since there was no narrative to sort of push me forward, I ended up just being able to play for a little bit and then stop, you know. And in regards to even older games, you could play. Well, okay, if you go back to, like, let's say Castlevania again. Castlevania does save between stages, but if you turn off the NES, it's all gone. So you have to do it all in one sitting, or leave the NES on for like a really long time. But when they got to like the Super Castlevania, you have the password system at least, so you could get back to where you were. So that way you could play in small chunks because it was still stage-based. So you could finish a stage here, a stage there, and then move on. Whereas in modern games, you play a sandbox game. I finished a mission, but you're still in the game world. There's no, results screen. There's no pause. You don't go back to the menu where it's just like, blah, okay, you finished in this time. This is your score. Here's the cutscene, blah. Instead, you finish the mission, and then your character's just standing there in the middle of the wide open sandbox world, and he's like, let's go do the next mission. I'm like, what? But can I take a break? You don't, in modern games, you don't feel like you can just stop. It feels like you have to like finish the game. Otherwise, it feels incomplete to you somehow.
So that's why you feel it's easier for you to pick a retro game.
Yes, I feel much more comfortable just like, I still sometimes like, you know what, fuck this. I take Gradius, pop it into the NES, play Gradius. It's a game you can play at any moment. It's fun. Like that, fun. I'm having fun. It takes no effort, it takes no commitment from me.
Well, it takes a lot of effort.
Well, okay, I don't mean
it's
that
really
kind of
hard.
I don't mean the effort in terms of playing the game.
No,
I mean like
get
effort to actually start playing the game.
Yeah.
Like the thing you were referring to as earlier about starting a game, which is difficult. Gradius doesn't have that. You're in. Let's go. I'm having fun. And that's the opposite of modern games, I feel. Yeah. And there's a bunch of like old games that I could do the same thing with. Just pop it in, start playing.
I guess there's a lot of indie games though that do kind of the same thing. But I don't think either of us actually have gotten too much into the indie game scene actually, because we have a lot of retro games.
Yeah.
And since the indie games usually are based on the retro games, and we have access to the retro games, we'll play them instead. But I think there's tons of indie games that kind of does the same thing.
But okay, so if we're not using how long to beat or any of our other methods to figuring out how to play games, there are services that are not very good. You and I just found out. Before we started, we plan out these podcasts in advance, and we were like, oh, but there's like these services that you could use to help you keep track of your backlog. And I guess to some extent they do that, but it's not quite what you really expect it or want it to be.
No, it's like you said. It was kind of like just having on a piece of paper, and it's just said, I've beaten this game. I'm not done with this game." It's very simple and not very.
Yeah, the best thing you get out of these services is like there was this cool banner that tells you you have 90% or like 60% completed games, you have 40% beaten games, and you have 0% unfinished games, like you've never unfinished anything, you know. And that's kind of cool. Like that gives you an overview to tell you a ratio of how much do you complete versus how much do you just beat versus how much do you not even play or whatever. And that's kind of cool, but that doesn't really help you deal with your backlog, I feel. What you would need, and we were actually joking about making a service like this, is to actually make a backlog service that takes your back catalog or backlog and just finding those games, like automatically going through all of them and connecting to how long to beat to find out how long they are, and then averaging that out to the game score on like Metacritic or something to pick out the best games that are the shortest to tell you to play these, so that the system literally can like speak to you and be like, take these games and play them right now, because you'll finish them quickly and you will enjoy them because Metacritic says they're really, really good.
It'd be kind of fun also if you could put in about how many hours a week you can put into gaming.
Yeah.
And maybe how, if you want to dedicate yourself to a game, or if you want a quick game, you can just click, I want a quick game, or I want a long game, or a average lengthy game.
Yeah.
That would
and
be
you can
pretty
like
cool.
exactly, you can put little tags on it to tell you I want an RPG or I want an action game or a shooter or whatever, and it will just like do an algorithm that like calculates this will take this much time, that's faster than this, and it has a much higher Metacritic, so probably he'll enjoy this much more, and it's an RPG and he wants that, and blah blah. Perfect, here, play this. And then you can feel more safe in that it will help you feel better about your backlog, so to speak.
Yeah.
But the services that we checked out didn't really provide anything like that.
No, not really.
We checked out Backloggery, Completionist.me, and Steam Completionist. At best, these just provide like an overview of what games you have.
Yeah.
And I already have that. I made my own.
You already have Steam. I mean, Steam tells you all that.
Yeah, you already... Well, it doesn't provide you, like, extra information. I think maybe that's why these sites exist.
And what's that extra information? On
like,
how many % of all games you've completed? And
actually, Steam has that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, but I mean, like, well, you have to go in one at a time to find that out. Maybe this is just like an overview or something.
Yeah.
But, neither of these services were particularly impressive to us. Maybe there's better ones that we haven't found. But we should make one. We'll make a really cool one.
Yeah, sure. We can
integrate it into Random Game Picker by Random Rad Games. Yeah, we should do that.
That would be cool.
Yeah, and we'll sell it for millions.
Yeah.
To Facebook. We'll be wealthy and crazy rich.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's actually one more problem when it comes to like prioritizing your backlog and so on, because we've talked about this before, but you don't take like your gaming devices or anything with you, like handheld gaming devices when you're out in the field or on the bus or something.
When I was younger, I played a lot of handheld.
Yeah.
And as I got older, I still played a lot of handheld, but gradually over time, it became more console and less handheld. So I have a ton of handheld consoles. Even like I have 3 different Game Boy Advances. I can't explain to you why I have 3 different Game Boy Advances. I just happen to have 3 Game Boy Advances. But at a certain point in my life, I was like, you know what? When I'm outside of my apartment, I don't want to be playing a game. I don't want to be
a nerd anymore.
No, it's
in
like
the eyes of others.
I want to absorb outside. You know what I mean?
By looking down into your phone.
I don't really do that as much. I know a lot of people. I do that sometimes, sure. Yeah. If I'm like texting my girlfriend or something, then I'll focus on my phone. But if I'm not, I'll usually just put my phone away and look out the window in the train or bus or whatever I am, just because I feel like it provides me more relief.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought when the PlayStation Vita came out, I felt like the console was awesome, but what I wanted wasn't quite that because they were advertising. I was watching the advertisements, the commercials for a game, the PlayStation Vita before it came out, and they were advertising it as a console on the go, which is not what I want at all. My interpretation of a portable console is that I can play it at home on my TV, and then I can go to someplace else and play it on a TV, not in between, not in transit. But rather when I am where I'm going or when I'm back home. That's where I want to play. I want to sit comfortably in a chair or a couch, lean back, head up, controller in hand. I don't want to be hunched over downwards, getting a neck cramp or whatever, playing a game on a handheld. That's not interesting to me at all. Partially, it has a little bit to do with my shyness over my handicap, and I don't like to be out in public. Just like I usually have my hands in my pockets. It's just a mental thing, insecurity, I suppose. I don't know, but I just feel it's like it's not what I want to do. I'd rather look out the window while I'm on a train or a bus or sitting somewhere than focus down in my lap looking at a PlayStation Vita or whatever.
Yeah, what I feel when it comes to handheld gaming, I would want to bring them with me more than I do, because when I'm on the train, I get what you're saying with the whole thing of looking out the window. I want to do that more, but I usually just look down into my phone when I sit in the train, like many,
like most
others.
people do.
Yeah, like most people do. And but I try to keep my head up when I'm walking outside.
Yeah, of course. That's a good plan.
Yeah, because I usually
step over the edge at the train station, like fall on the railing.
Because sometimes when I walk, I just look down to the ground and not look up.
Yeah,
And
I do
I'm
that
at my
too.
destination,
Yeah.
and I don't look at the scenery at all.
I do that if I'm walking fast. If I'm walking slow, I have a tendency to lean back and look up.
Maybe that's the problem, because I always walk fast.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But I found that if I walk fast, I tend to like lean forward and look down.
Yeah.
Where if I'm walking slow and just strutting, walking like a cool guy, I tend to lean back and look up and look more cool and fresh.
Yeah. But what I was about to say is that I want to bring more of these handheld gaming devices with me. One of the factors why I don't do that is probably what you were saying, but I don't have a handicap or anything, but it's still kind of awkward, I guess, to like pull up a Switch or sit there with a Game Boy Advance in your hands on the subway or the train or whatever.
Even though gaming has come a long way, there's still a stigma.
Well, the gaming today is looking down into your phones and playing games on that.
Yeah.
And if someone's playing like Candy Crush or something, no one will judge you.
I do.
Yeah, okay.
I totally will judge you. I would think, what a fucking loser is playing Candy Crush,
I mean, Candy Crush
or
is
Angry
kind of
Birds. Fuck that shit. Give me some God of War.
Yeah. Well, that's an aspect of it, but the biggest problem I actually have with it is when you sit on the train and you try to pick and try to focus on the game, you usually just think, oh, I'm about to. Even if you have around half an hour. You always have to think, and you can't forget that you're on the go, because if you do, you'll miss your stop.
Yeah.
So that's distracting, and it's also distracting while there's people all around you. Just to
On a side note, you and I live in Sweden, and the commuter trains that takes us to the city or wherever we want to go have since last year or the year before started putting up advertisements on the windows. So when I'm sitting on the train, I'm trying to like not look at my phone. I want to look outside. I have this big ad in my face and I can't look out the window. That I'm so pissed off about that. But anyway, that's a sidetrack.
Yeah, it's a sidetrack. But the whole point of this was I usually try to focus on one game when it comes to consoles or what do you call them? Not handheld consoles, but like normal consoles.
Home consoles?
Home consoles.
Yeah.
I usually try to focus on one game there, but I also have one game that I play in handheld. So, for example, I might be playing Ocarina of Time right now on the Nintendo 64, but I'm playing what's it called? Dead Cells on the Switch right now. So I have two games that I play in parallel. But sometimes I just pick it up. I usually just pick it up and play it at home. It depends on what I feel like.
The most important feature about the Nintendo Switch, and the feature I wanted from even before the Vita was released, was the come home, set it into a dock, sit back in the couch and play on TV. Because that's
cool
what I
design.
talked about. What I talked about earlier, where I said I don't want to play in transit. I want to play when I'm home or when I'm going somewhere. Because when I'm going somewhere, I don't want to carry my PlayStation 4. You know what I mean? I want to have something light, simple, that I can plug into the television and play with the controller back with a complete console experience. Not like the Ouya or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like those crappy phone games that you play on a television. No, thank you. So that's what the Switch does. And I'm super happy about it. Switch does a great job. I went on vacation, took my Switch with me. Didn't have to play it on transit. I could just play it on the TV at the hotel or whatever I was going. That's perfect. It's exactly what you want.
Yeah. And with that, you'll just start to clear your backlog one game at a time.
That makes it easier to actually finish.
Yeah.
You know, instead of being like, oh, I'm on vacation now. I guess I'm not going to finish any game this month. Instead, you just take it with you and you can keep playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the main topic that we wanted to discuss.
Yeah.
If you have any thoughts or feelings about this same thing, do you experience this problem with backlog? I bet a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a collector.
Yes.
That becomes an issue. The bigger the collection, the bigger the stress, I think. So let us know. As we mentioned, you can talk to us on Discord, but you can just send us messages on any of our social media as well. Links on our website, randomradgames.com. But that's not it. That's not all for this episode, because our episodes always end with a segment that is named after the program.
Random Rad Games.
Random Rad Games.
And it's just we pick out one game each that we want to talk about, and
in this episode, we picked some very special games.
Yes.
So like maybe we'll go over to that now and talk about our games.
Yes.
Can you guess which games they are?
I bet you can't.
Let's find out. Dum dum dum. Growing up, we didn't really have money to spend on video games. And on top of that, my parents always thought of games as something that little children play that was a waste of money. But on one rare occasion, I found myself in a store with my father, and there was a bargain bin filled with video games. When my dad told me I could pick one, I lit up with excitement. Digging through the pile, I found one that piqued my interest. It reminded me of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and it starred none other than Doc Brown himself, Christopher Lloyd. It was a PC game called Toonstruck. Toonstruck. Have you ever heard of it?
I'm thinking about a show that is called Toonstruck. I think it's called Toonstruck in English. It's with all these different characters with Taz and everything. Is that Toonstruck?
No, you're thinking of Looney Tunes.
Looney Tunes. That's what I'm thinking about.
Completely different thing.
Kind of similar sounding name though.
There's the word tune in it.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. No, Toonstruck is a very unique game. I don't think there's anything like it anywhere, ever. It was a game that It was a point-and-click adventure game. In the clearest, most simplest terms, a point-and-click. There was no other feature other than you can point-and-click to pick up items, put them in your, bottomless bag, and then use those items to unlock the next stage and so on. It's the simplest, clearest terms of what a point-and-click adventure is. But what makes it special is its story, its cast, its characters, as is the case with many and most point-and-click adventure games. Mm-hmm. What made this one unique is that in the 90s there was something of a trend where there were to be movies and TV shows, I think, where they combined cartoons with real life. So I don't know if you ever heard of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, for example.
I've heard about it.
But aside from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, there was also there was a movie called Cool World. It was a much darker, much creepier version of something like that, where real people interact with cartoons. And then, of course, we have Space Jam. Space Jam is a classic. Michael Jordan with all the Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and all those. Yeah. So it's kind of a trend. And so when this game came out, they found one actor, as all of these movies have something in common, is that they picked like one really good actor to play like the human, and then a ton of like really professional voice actors to fill out the rest of the cast. So Bob Hoskins, as I said, was in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Cool World had Brad Pitt in it, and Kim Basinger, and Gabriel Byrne, big actors. And then Space Jam, of course, has Michael Jordan.
The one I recognize.
Yeah. But what Toonstruck did is it got Christopher Lloyd, who you know as Doc Brown from Back to the Future. Mm-hmm. He's a fantastic actor. I'm a big fan of his. He's really active on Twitter, apparently. I just found out.
As of today?
Yeah, as of today. He's still alive. He's pretty old,
he's
but still alive, believe it or not. Actually, he had to wear prosthetic makeup to make him look older when he played Doc Brown in Back to the Future, because he wasn't that old. No. But he played an older person, so he had to wear makeup and wigs and stuff. Now he's actually old. Now he's for real old. But Toonstruck he plays a man called Drew Blank. So what happens is Drew Blank is a cartoonist. He works for a company that makes cartoons. And his job is to draw. He draws cartoon characters for TV shows and books and stuff like that. And one day he has a meeting with his boss, who is the only other person in the whole game who's played by in real, not a cartoon. Otherwise, it's only Christopher Lloyd. All the other characters are just cartoons, except for Christopher Lloyd and his boss. So he goes to talk to his boss, who's played by an actor called Ben Stein. A lot of people know him as the psychiatrist from the movie The Mask.
Is that a great movie, The Mask?
Yes! Are you kidding me?
I don't know.
Dude, don't mess with me.
I'm sorry.
I'll kick your ass. No, but anyway, Ben Stein pays his boss, and his boss is an asshole. He tells him, we need a new... our ratings have been going down. We need a fresh batch of new cute characters to, fuel our new show. And he tells Drew, I need a fresh new batch of characters by tomorrow morning. And Drew is like, tomorrow morning? The day is already over, and, so I have to sit in the office all night and work? Pretty much. So the backstory of Drew is that he draws for a cartoon called the Fluffy Bun Bun Show, which is like the most girliest, cutest little... It's like little bunnies that are pink and cute and always nice to each other. And but Drew actually wants to make an edgier character. He had drawn a zany character, a wacky character called Flux Wildly. Flux is voiced by Dan Castellaneta, who is the voice of Homer Simpson.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so Drew goes back to his office, and he's really angry because his boss is an asshole, and he made him sit and work late into the night. So it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. He's sitting in his office. It's dark. He only has one lamp lighting up his drawing desk, and he's working, and he's angry, and he's tired, and it's getting late, and he starts to doze off. And he falls asleep. Suddenly, bam! The TV turns on. The TV is nearby. And it's the Fluffy Bun Bun show. And he's like, what the hell are you doing on at 4 o'clock in the morning? And he tries to turn it off with the remote. And suddenly he gets sucked into the television. Cut ahead, he wakes up. He's in a cartoon world. Everything is drawn around him, except him. He's human. And he realizes that...
So even the environment.
Even the environment, everything. So he realizes that he landed, he apparently fell from the sky. He landed on top of somebody. He stands up. It's Flux Wildly, his best friend. They love each other. They give each other a warm embrace, hug each other. They're like, hey, what are you doing here? And it's like really cute and adorable. And Drew, of course, explains his situation to Flux, and Flux is like, I know, we'll talk to the King of Qtopia. He'll help you get back home. The King of Qtopia explains that right now, there's 3 nations. There's Qtopia, there's Xanadu, where Flux Wildly comes from, which is a more zany, crazy world where it's like Looney Tunes, basically. Yeah. And then there's a 3rd world called the Malevolence, where everything is evil and dark and black. And the ruler of the Malevolence, the evil Count Nefarious, who is voiced by Tim Curry, one of the greatest actors of all time. He played, oh my god, so he's mostly known in the modern day as a voice actor because he has a very, very identifiable voice. When you hear his voice, it's like, yeah, that's Tim Curry. There's nobody who even sounds similar to him. So he plays him, and he's always over the top and super dramatic when he acts. So when he has his unique voice combined with his over the top acting, that's a Tim Curry performance. So he plays Count Nefarious, and he has built a machine that flies over the world, and he can shoot a laser beam of sorts that turns anything into evil malevolent. So he's flying over Qtopia, shooting his little beam at people and land, and everything turns evil and rotten and terrible. So the king says, I will help you get back to Earth, or wherever you're from, the real world, if you help us stop and reverse the effects of what Count Nefarious has done. And so Flux and Drew together set off on an adventure to save Qtopia. And everything I just described to you is just the beginning. It just goes crazy after that. It is the who's who of some of the greatest voice actors who have ever lived. People who have voiced some of the most iconic characters in cartoon and animation history. You can recognize them. Sometimes you're like, oh, there's a new character, and he starts talking. He's like, is that? It's just it keeps happening over and over, and that actor and that actor, and it's so much fun for anybody who follows these sort of things. And the characters themselves are so fun. You can tell oh, that's inspired by Looney Tunes, oh, that's inspired by Disney, etc., etc. And I got sucked into that world. I was in Qtopia, I was in Xanadu, I was in the Malevolence.
Did you recognize all of these or some of these characters when you were young as well, or just very...
Not the voice actors, but characters, yes.
Okay.
Voice actors, I didn't know as many when I was a little kid.
So you didn't know of Back to the Future?
Well, I knew him.
You knew about the movie, but you didn't know that he was a voice actor in the game? Doc Brown?
Doc Brown is live action. He's not the voice.
Oh, okay.
He's live action. He's the person. He's a digitized picture of him, the actual actor.
Okay.
Maybe I should show you a picture so that you understand what I mean. I'm trying to see, that's a trailer. Let's watch this trailer. Okay, so it begins in real life. This is the only other live action actor. That's the psychiatrist from The Mask.
Okay, so he's the main character.
This is the main character.
Okay, and that's
Doc Brown.
Doc Brown.
This is Doc Brown from Back to the Future. Yeah. So this is the beginning where his boss tells him he has to do the project. This is him working late at night, and then he gets sucked into the television, and then he goes into the cartoon world. And it's Toonstruck. Yes. But yeah, so I was younger then, so I didn't know as many actors or voice actors, anything like that. So the cool thing is, I recently replayed this game on my Twitch stream.
Oh.
Handy Gamer Show on Twitch. So it might still be in the highlights section or the videos section. I'm not sure if somebody wants to go and check and see me play through this game again after so many years.
It looks really fun.
It is fun. It's very funny and wacky and
yeah. It
very
even said
atmospheric.
whack me as in the trailer. It just said whack me as you said wacky.
Yes.
It looks really great. However, unfortunately you lost me at point and click games. Because I've had such bad experiences with those types of games.
No, it's a lot of fun.
It's
The sucky part is when I was a little kid and I played this for the first time, I never finished it because at the end of the game there's a bug that prevents you from continuing the game.
Fun.
But I finished most of the game by that point, so I already had the experience of playing it to the end, just not to the end. And so Then I replayed it years later on a completely different computer where I was lucky enough to not have the bug, and I managed to play through and finish the game.
Well done.
Thank you. And then recently, like I said, I replayed it on Twitch, and I still get that nostalgic feeling about it. It's really, really fun if you ignore the fact that it's a point-and-click adventure game and enjoy the story, the characters, and all that.
Maybe I can watch your stream.
If it's still available, you could try it. Absolutely.
Check it out.
The thing is, I streamed it like over half a year ago, so Twitch tends to purge old videos. So maybe it's not still there. I don't know. But, if it's still there, definitely. But either way, what I want to recommend this game for anybody who's interested in playing it. Until 2015, you couldn't play it unless you owned a physical copy of it, which I did. But 2015, it came out digitally. Now it's on Steam, it's on GOG, and I don't know if I read it somewhere else as well. Well, anyway, the two most important ones, GOG and Steam, they both have it. Most likely you'll have to install like a DOS-box, some sort of emulation service or software to be able to play it because it's a DOS game, so obviously.
Was this only released on PC? Or
Yes,
was it
never released on anything else except DOS, and now you can play it on PC through DOS-box.
Yeah, what year?
It was released I'm trying to remember. Was I 9 or 10 years old when it came out? Can you... Wait, we can just do this.
I think,
we can do this. It came out
1996
in North America and Europe. Not in Japan. Too bad. I don't think the Japanese crowd would be too interested in it. It was published by Virgin Interactive Entertainment, which is like the only reason I knew the name Virgin until I was like an adult and heard about Virgin Airlines and all these. And when I saw Virgin Airlines, I was like, is that the company that released Toonstruck? I had no clue. This is the only Virgin I knew.
It changed the business.
Yeah.
Started making airplanes.
Yeah. And it was developed by Burst Studios. The funny thing is, like, the license for this game is owned by one guy. Just one guy who apparently purchased it, or I don't know, inherited it or whatever. And he's actually trying to get a sequel made. But he's looking for backers on like Kickstarters and stuff like that. He has repeatedly said, like, if people show enough interest, and we need a lot of interest and a lot of people backing us, then we will definitely make a sequel. This game actually got cut down. It was supposed to be larger. It had whole sections of the games removed, which is really unfortunate. In that trailer that I just showed you, there were scenes in that trailer that are never appear in the game. Even though they're finished and they exist in the code or whatever, they never made it on the disc or never got released. So he's been trying to get petitions signed and work done to release the full version of the game together with a sequel. In all honesty, I've been looking into it, like what's been going on. It seems pretty unlikely that it will ever happen. But, fingers crossed, I would be happy to play a sequel. Especially if they get Christopher Lloyd. Then I'll be like, hell yeah, man. If they get him back and they continue the story and you know what happens and he's like old man now, I would be super happy to play that. That's so yeah. I highly recommend that it's available on Steam and GOG. Go buy it, go play it. It won't take you long. It's super fun. Yeah.
I've been a fan of platforming games since the SNES and the N64 era, but unfortunately, they're seldom made today, so I was very happy when I heard about this game. I played it together with a friend since it supports multiplayer, but we learned quite quickly that multiplayer meant that you play as the main character and the other player plays as the character that is meant to be played by your baby brother or sister. And what I mean with that is that that character is basically just a cursor who's invincible and can't ruin your experience or the game. So we decided to pass the controller after each chapter, and together we enjoyed the adventures of Kutaro in Puppeteer. Yes.
Puppeteer.
What does that say? What does that name say to you?
Well, I'll be honest, and this is totally off topic, but when I hear the word puppeteer, I think of Rocketeer, which is, I believe, a video game and also a movie from like the early 90s, where with the man who wears a rocket on his back and flies through the skies. It's a good movie.
Well, this game is
Off
definitely
topic.
not that.
It's not that, no. I've seen this game, but I've never actually played it. It looks cute.
Yes, it's a very cute game. It's a side-scrolling platformer in which you control Kutaro. And
What is the other invincible character?
the other invincible character is a cat, which is there's a witch in the game.
Okay.
She's not the main villain or anything, but she's kind of with you throughout the whole game, and she's kind of nasty towards you. But this cat, for some reason, takes liking to you and follows you around, and then the other player can take control of this character, and you just move it. I'm not sure if it's a girl or a boy. I think it's a boy or a man.
Please, maybe she's non-binary.
Sorry.
Maybe she's an Apache helicopter.
Yeah. And that character is basically just used as a cursor. The only thing you do is point and click on things, and sometimes some moon shards or something will rain down for Kutaro to collect.
Didn't you say you don't like point and click?
Badumtsch.
Badumts.
Well,
What systems was this game released for?
this game was only released on the PS3.
It's exclusive.
Yes, it's exclusive. And it was released on the 2013. And it was developed by SCE Japan Studio and published by Sony.
Does it have a Japanese vibe to it? As video games go.
No.
No?
I don't think so. It's ton of different elements in the game, but they never really go full Japanese.
Never go full Japanese.
There's one very interesting thing about this game is that there's tons of different environments that you go through. So this game is a side-scrolling platforming game. And you, Kutaro, and the cat, which I can't remember the name of, unfortunately, Go through levels, sometimes just side-scrolling from left to right, and sometimes you go up.
To be honest, it kind of, especially when you said that it was PlayStation exclusive, it made me think of Little Big Planet. In style, in that it's like a side-scrolling platformer game, and that it's cute and kid-friendly. Kind of made me think of that.
They might have taken some inspiration from that game, because in this game you actually, so in the beginning of the game, you, Kotaro, is transformed into a puppet, and
was he human before?
Yes, he was human before, and this big bad guy, the main bad guy called the Moon King Bear, rips first turns you into a puppet and then rips your head off.
Wow.
Because this Moon Bear King has so the mission for Kotaro is to save the Moon Goddess. This whole game is on the moon, on the Earth's moon, and this Moon King Bear has captured the Moon Goddess, and your job is basically to find your head that the Moon Bear King ripped off and save the Moon Goddess.
Are you sure it's a kid's game? I don't know, when phrases like rips the head off, it doesn't really make you think. Yeah, well,
so it just goes boing, and you can still walk around just fine.
Still sounds creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if you see like Chucky without a head, and he's holding his head or something.
Isn't his head the thing that's actually scary on Chucky?
But, well, that and the fact that he's holding a knife trying to kill you.
Yeah, I guess knife as well. But during the game, you can actually find different kinds of heads. And these heads gives you special abilities that you can use during the game.
Okay.
And some of these heads are actually very hidden, and you might miss them if you don't pay
so it's attention. Collectibles and stuff?
Yeah, there's collectible. You collect moon shards and you collect heads. That's basically what you do.
Do these abilities unlock abilities to go to previous places, like sort of Metroidvania type perspective?
They unlock secret areas.
Okay, so yeah.
It's the head has a ability which you can use to fight enemies or other different kinds of things. But during each chapter, there's some specific heads which you can find during your time in that world. And sometimes you...
so they don't carry over?
Well, yes, they do, because if you find the head once, you'll be able to find it always.
You'll have it, or you can find it?
You can find it. You can't just pick it up from your...
There's no inventory?
No, you can only have 3 heads at a time, and you can switch between them. But if you get hit, you lose it, and you have to run and pick it up, but you can lose it for that time being if it disappears. But if sometimes when like a big picture of a head just pops up on screen, or sometimes it's hidden. But if you have that head on you and you do like a little dance, you get an access to a secret area, or you get some moon shards or something.
So so if you pick up a certain new head in like a later chapter, will you be able to use that head to unlock an area in an earlier chapter? Because that's what I'm thinking of as in terms of like a Castlevania.
Replayability.
Well, not replay, but rather that you can go back to earlier places and find new paths and stuff.
This game is played as a puppet show. There's an audience and everything, and this game is split up into chapters. So you never go backwards, so to speak. Okay. You always go forward and you move on to new chapters.
Because as like we talked about Castlevania Lords of Shadow, as much as that game is not a Castlevania game, it did occasionally, because it's level based, it's stage based, so you finish a level and then another level and then you switch chapters and that chapter has a couple of levels. What it did do, which a lot of people don't seem to mention, is that you unlock an ability later, and then you can go in the main menu, you can go back to earlier stages, replay them, and there's a section there that was hidden from you before, but now with the new ability you can get in there. So I'm wondering if Puppeteer has something like that.
There was nothing, we never try that.
No.
But I think that all of the heads that might pop up in that they want you to use in one chapter, you can receive either in that chapter or in an earlier chapter. I don't think you find one head that you have to like start all over again from chapter 1 with a head that you found in chapter 2. I do not think it's like that in this game. However, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was reading on the screen because we were talking about does this feel like a Japanese type? You see a name like the director Gavin Moore. You see the composer Patrick Doyle, and then producer Takashi Mitsutani, and the designer Kazunobu Sato.
Well, I mean,
it feels much more Japanese when you realize that.
And the main character has a very Japanese name, Kutaro.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
that's
very
true.
Japanese.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But there was never as far as I can remember, there was never a chapter where you were in like an ancient Japan or ancient China or anything.
That's
like
not necessarily what I meant with "Does it feel like Japanese?"
I guess.
But yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, when you look at the game, it doesn't look like it belongs to any sort of region. It doesn't feel like a European or American or Asian in any way. It's like its own world, sort of.
Yes.
So yeah, it looks cute. So you can get it on your PS3. It's really cheap. It's $15.
Yeah.
That's really cheap. And 10 hours. So that's like that's a bargain.
Yeah.
Yeah, highly recommended.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's it for our second podcast episode.
Yeah, how are you feeling?
I have a sore throat. I can't speak.
So
I've lost my voice. Well, I want everybody who watches this podcast, listens to this podcast. I'm so used to watching because it's always YouTube.
Yeah.
But who listens to this to know that I go through agonizing pain to make these podcasts because Seb has a cat, and I am freakishly allergic to cats. So he has like cat hair all over his body and his clothes. So he has to basically record these podcasts naked. So even though you can't, you can't tell because it's audio only. But he is butt naked right now, sitting in one of my lesser used chairs. I don't sit in that chair very often, so I gave it to him so he can sit because he's naked.
Yeah, but seriously, I actually have a pair of clothes here that I only wear when I'm here.
Yeah,
and they're like all
the trashy and
weird and
and there's a hole in your crotch.
Is it?
Was it? I think I just saw a hole. There's a hole right there.
There's a hole right here.
I thought I saw another one on the other side.
Crotch.
Yeah, I think I see your penis.
Have you seen this whole time?
Yes, that's what I've been staring at this whole podcast.
So where can they find us?
Yes, we are Random Rad Games, so you can find us therefore at randomradgames.com.
Yes,
and
your fantastically made website.
Yes, which I
really
made.
Starting to look pretty now.
Yeah, and I'm working on it continuously, so it'll keep looking better and better with time, and adding more features. Making a new design right now, so it should look better soon. Right now, it looks pretty bare bones. It'll look slightly better soon. Slightly.
Yeah. You're a programmer, but no graphic designer.
Exactly.
But you're still doing it.
That's pretty much the entire truth. I'm not a graphic designer, but I made our banner.
Yeah,
at least. So that looked pretty good.
Yes, and you do all our small pictures for every episode.
Yeah, the little thumbnails.
Thumbnails.
Yeah. So if you listen to this podcast through the player on our website, you may or may not know that you can subscribe to our podcast so that you can get informed when we release a new episode, and you can do that with the RSS feed or just click on any of the 15 services in the podcast service list that's either on the right side on desktop or on the mobile. It's on the top, I think, so that you can keep updated when we release new episodes.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it went well, and I look forward to doing our next episode. I have an idea for the next topic, but it's not set in stone.
Okay.
So therefore, I will not tell us.
Okay.
Or you. But it's not set in stone because we are open to suggestions.
Yes.
If you have thoughts and ideas about this topic or whatever topic you'd like us to talk about, hit us up on Discord. We even have a special thread in the Discord.
It's dedicated to
to suggestions.
Giving us suggestions.
Exactly. So feel free to do that. And we'll hear you. Well, you'll hear us in the next podcast episode. Stay cool, stay fresh, and all that.
Stay rad.
Yes, stay rad. And random. Stay random.
Definitely random.
And stay game. Because that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.
Adios.